Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Jennifer King, and I want to welcome you all to our Swetland seminar series, which is our virtual series, to highlight the center's 3 cores, which are related to research, training and education, and community engagement. So I wanted to go through a little bit of housekeeping now that we are all living virtually. There's just some things that we want to make sure that we go over. So you all are muted except for myself and today's presenters. So should you need to communicate with us or to myself, you can do so by using the chat tool, and you can select panelists or individual attendees who you may want to communicate with. You may use the raise your hand feature or the Q&A features. You can also use the chat to send in any questions that you may have of today's presenters, and I will read them off during the Q&A session. Now, given our remote delivery, it's important that we are all respectful and patient of each other as we get into today's norm. But I also just, again, want to make sure that you feel free and comfortable to ask questions, as there are no right or wrong questions here. We are recording, and I will post the seminar to the Swetland Center's website by the end of this week. Now, I know that we all really wanted to see each other in person, and we do miss each other, and we would like to say our hellos. So please help me test out the chat tool by letting me know who you are and what organization you represent. Okay, awesome. So just gonna point a few people out. Good morning, Ruth. Good morning, Jean. Okay, awesome. Good morning, Nicole. So we have a lot of representation from the Swetland Center. We have some representation from the PRC, from Environmental Health and Safety. At CASE, we have one of our interns who is here at CASE, but a student at John Carroll. And Ruth is actually the Swetland with the Swetland Family Foundation. So good morning to everyone. Please, again, feel free to go ahead and continue to introduce yourself and let us know that you are all here. Okay, so I want to go ahead and introduce today's presenters. First is Lauren Vargo, who is the manager for the Ohio Produce Perks Statewide Evaluation Project in the Swetland Center. Prior to her role in Swetland, she worked with farmers markets in the Cleveland area that were operating the Produce Perks program and as a facilitator for the Fresh Link Ambassador program. Currently, she conducts program reporting and leads evaluation studies at participating SNAP incentive program sites across the state. Lauren has earned her Master's of Urban Planning and Development from Cleveland State University and is passionate about sustainability, teaching yoga, and supporting local farmers. We're also joined by Amanda Osborne, who is the Community Development Educator at the Ohio State University Extension Office in Cuyahoga County. She supports the implementation of the Produce Perks program in Cuyahoga County and in partnership with over 20 community farmers markets, and is also a collaborative partner on other nutrition incentive programs, including Produce Perks Prescription and WIC Perks. Amanda is a member of the Ohio Nutrition Incentive Network, which is also known as ONIN, and the Ohio Food Policy Network. Amanda has earned her master's of urban geography at the George Washington State University, and she's passionate about all things local and is an avid beekeeper. Today, Lauren and Amanda will present on the Produce Perks Midwest program and how it positively impacted the food system throughout Cleveland in 2019. And I'm sure that we'll also hear about how the program has had to adjust with the demands of COVID-19. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen to allow Lauren and Amanda to get us ready with their presentation.
Thanks, Jennifer. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep, you're good.
Perfect. All right, well, good morning, everyone. I am Lauren Vargo with the Swetland Center. Thank you for the introduction, Jennifer. Amanda's also a presenter today, and we'll be kind of splitting the presentation half and half. So today we're going to be going over the Ohio Produce Perks SNAP Incentive Program and looking at 2019 as a whole. So the agenda for today's presentation is, first, I'm going to give you an overview of the Produce Perks program, looking at the history of the program, and then also how the program operates at both direct-to-consumer sites and retail sites. Then Amanda is going to take over and talk about the Produce Perks program and some other programming in the Cleveland area, and then how COVID has impacted the program and what changes we've made. So the Ohio Produce Perks program is the SNAP incentive program in Ohio. So participating sites will match a SNAP customer's SNAP dollars, dollar for dollar, up to $10 at retail sites and $20 at farmers markets. Produce Perks increases access to fresh fruits and vegetables for food insecure communities. It also, at farmers markets, supports local vendors because, especially those that are selling produce, they are able to sell more produce because of the program. And on the right here, you'll see the marketing. So this Use SNAP We Match is the marketing that's been used for the past 3 years. So buy a little, get a lot produce, and the visual of the Ohio direction card. So how does this program operate? We work under the federal grant, Food Insecurity and Nutrition Incentive Grant. It is being renamed the GUSNIP grant, so if you hear that, they are the same. Our grant that we work under currently was awarded in July 2018, and it is a 3-year grant. The title of our grant is Harvesting Health in the Heartland, Ohio Produce Perks. And below I've listed some of the goals for our grant. And so over the 3 years, there are different amounts that we are trying to hit for the following. Counties, participating locations, so how many locations are actually participating and operating the program so customers can use it. How many SNAP customers, so unique customers, are using the program, which is something that we can track with data. SNAP eligible vendors, so that's vendors that are at the farmers markets that can sell fruits and vegetables that are SNAP eligible. And incentives, so how many Produce Perks are actually getting redeemed at both retail sites and direct-to-consumer sites. One big part of the Produce Perks program is the Ohio Nutrition Incentive Network. Since 2016, the Ohio Nutrition Incentive Network has brought together leaders in SNAP incentive programming in Ohio from local partners and organizations, healthy food retailers and producers, state agencies such as Job and Family Services, Ohio Department of Health, and national experts. We do have an advisor from Wholesome Ways. And you'll see here on the map the different regions that we're split into. So we have Northwest in yellow, Northeast in green, Central in red, Southwest region in the lighter green, and then the Southeast region. And so kind of the idea of the Ohio Nutrition Incentive Network is that all of us come together, and a lot of these are spokes, so network managers of the farmers markets in their area or experts, and come together to make decisions about future funding, how we want to market, kind of working together as a group collaboratively. So to touch on the program history, you'll see that in 2011, Northeast Ohio launched the Produce Perks program. Pilot programming started in 2009 and 2010, and then it officially got funding to start consistent programming in 2011. So in Cleveland, it was actually called Produce Perks, and I always love saying this because across the state, we used to all work separately under our own grants, all the different areas. And so in Akron, with Countryside Conservancy, it was called Carrot Cash, and in the Columbus area, Veggie Snaps. So lots of fun vegetable pun names, but it was decided upon to call the statewide network the Produce Perks program. So as you'll see through 2012 to 2015, people were working on their own grants, and that's when the USDA proposal or the idea to come together as a statewide network and apply kind of started to cultivate. And in 2016, the Ohio Nutrition Incentive Network launched. So that's when everyone started coming together from all these different areas across the state to work together to apply for the grant in 2018. You'll see that there are some different funding opportunities that happened in 2016 and 2017. Also, Produce Perks Midwest, the organization that is actually awarded the funds, was nominated as the statewide program lead in late 2016. So they led the efforts to get the grant all together with Wholesome Waves so we could apply. And then in 2018, Produce Perks Midwest was awarded a $2.3 million USDA grant, the Finney grant. And that is a matching grant. So in total, it is $4.6 million over 3 years to spend on SNAP incentive programming in Ohio and other evaluation studies and operations. And then another thing to mention that's happened in 2019 and 2020. So Ohio legislator appropriates $850,000 to support nutrition incentive programming. So within the TANF grant, statewide grant, there was funding for the Produce Perks program as well as a PRX program. And there's more PRX programming that's expanding across the state that started in 2019 and continued into 2020. So first, before we hop into how the program works at both sites, I think it's always important to look at the SNAP trends in Ohio. So you'll see in this table that it's laying out persons, households, and benefits. And it is showing the month of November for the past 3 years. You can see that the increase there, besides 2017, there was like a low decrease. And then from 2018 to 2019, the persons and the households both increased, but the benefits during those 3 years decreased steadily. So we're having more people that are on SNAP, but there's less funds getting out to those people. And just as a note, if no one knows, kind of before COVID, the minimum amount of SNAP was $15. So there are a lot of people that do get $15. And then the rest of your SNAP is dependent on your income, family members, and other factors. So what did Produce Perks do in 2019? There was 105 participating sites. And you can see here on the map that it shows what counties that there are participating sites actually operating and when they joined the program. So in 2017 through 2019. And there was quite a bit of expansion into 5 counties in 2019. From all of the operating sites, both retail and direct to consumer, there was 42,813 transactions when a SNAP customer used a Produce Perks program. or used a Produce Perks token or coupon. And we'll go a little bit more into how the program works at these different sites in a moment. Over $1 million in incentives was distributed to SNAP customers in 2019, and almost $400,000 in incentives was redeemed at these participating sites. So moving into direct-to-consumer sites, we're going to go over participating sites, some of the 2019 numbers, some graphs and comparison tables, and other maps. And here are some photos, thanks to Produce Perks Midwest Facebook. So lots of great produce at farmers markets. So participating sites. So you've been hearing me say direct to consumer. So the reason that we say that instead of just farmers markets is because you can see here on the left that there's more than just farmers markets that operate the program. There's also farm stands, mobile markets, and CSAs, which are community supported agriculture, which is when you pay for a box either weekly or upfront, so you're investing in the farmer. Direct to consumer just means that it's coming directly from the farm to the consumer. The visual on the right will show you the networks for the direct to consumer sites in Ohio and how many locations are in each. So how does the program work at a direct-to-consumer site? So what happens is a SNAP customer will visit the market, and when they get there, they'll go up to the market manager table. As the picture on the right, you'll see there's normally a smiling face sitting at a table with a banner or an A-frame sign saying, "You SNAP, we match," or "Get your produce perks here." So the Ohio Direction Card holder will ask to swipe their card for whatever amount they want to spend that day. It could be $2, it could be $200, or anything in between. When the market manager swipes their card, if they swipe it for $10, the market manager will match the SNAP amount for $10. So instead of the person just getting 10, they will walk away with 20. And the way that that works is at a market, when you use a card, you'll usually get tokens in return because that's what a vendor can accept and then turn into the market manager at the end of the day. So you would get your wooden tokens or tickets for your SNAP dollars, and then you would get the green tokens that are in this photo for your produce perks. And then produce perks can be spent on fruits, vegetables, herbs, or edible plants at the market. They can't be spent on other items, when SNAP tokens can be spent on things such as some baked goods, bread, and such. So looking at the past 3 years of Produce Perks programming. So number of sites. So from 2017 to 2019, there was an increase in the amount of sites. In 2019, there were 84 operating sites. As for SNAP sales, this has steadily increased over the years as well. From 2018 to 2019, there was a 3.5% increase. SNAP transactions. This also has increased over time. And something that's interesting to kind of note here is, so while SNAP sales and SNAP transactions are related, you know, there may be more transactions happening. People are just spending less in those transactions. So that's why for 2018, the transactions are a little bit lower, but for both 2018 and 2019, the SNAP sales are relatively similar. Incentives distributed. So this also has really increased over time. And something to note is that in 2018, so when this Finney grant that we are currently working under was awarded, there was a decision by the network to increase the match for produce perks at farmers markets from $10 to $20. So this allowed people to spend more SNAP and get more produce perks, because the average person spending SNAP before 2018 was above $10. So they decided to increase the match, so getting low income residents better access and able to afford more fruits and vegetables. And then total unique customers. So you can see that the amount of unique customers is increasing over the years. And we track this for farmers markets using the data collection tool FM Tracks. And we collect, or the market managers collect, an FM Tracks ID, so an identifier that we can actually capture a unique customer and follow them throughout the years. So looking at yearly SNAP sales at direct-to-consumer sites, and this is from 2016 through 2019. So you can see that this pattern kind of follows the same one year round, and that makes sense seeing as in Ohio, we do have seasonal farmers markets. So the peak of seasonality for produce is going to be in August and September, which is when we're seeing that people are spending the most SNAP at farmers markets. And it has been increasing over the years as well. We do have year-round farmers markets as well in Ohio, and there's some in every area. So you'll see too, that's why it's not ever at zero. It may get a little low, but people are still shopping at the markets throughout the entire year. And now looking at redemption rates. So this is a percentage that's the amount of incentives redeemed divided by the amount of incentives distributed. So this kind of goes all over the place as you see throughout the months, and there's a few reasons for this. So one being, if you see this spike in 2017 near the end of the year, it could be a factor that people are spending more money near the holidays, so they could be kind of hoarding their tokens, SNAP and produce perks, to spend at the end of the year, maybe at a holiday market or something when you know you want to buy a lot of stuff for Thanksgiving. Or the other kind of rationale for this is that vendors are holding on to the tokens that they've been getting throughout the summer, and you know, maybe there's a bag that fell under the car seat or something like that, and then they turn it all in at the end of the year when everyone's kind of wrapping up their fiscal year, and so it just shows that there's a spike at the end of the year. But you can see throughout the year there are kind of ups and downs, and through all 4 of these years, and that also can be contributed to people getting produce perks at the market one day, not spending all of it, and then maybe coming back a month later and spending them then. Now looking at some maps, both of these maps are the same, and they are reflecting the amount of SNAP spent by customer zip code. So as I was saying, we capture a unique customer ID. We also ask customers if they're okay collecting their zip code. And if they are, we record it in the system. And so we're able to see how much SNAP that customer decided to get off of their Ohio Direction card, and then track it by the zip code that they live in. And so you'll see on the left is 2018, and then on the right is 2019. Pretty similar, there was expansion into a few different counties in 2019, which is, it kind of reflects where programming expanded as well. And actually there were slightly less zip codes recorded, unique zip codes recorded in 2019 versus 2018. And so that can also mean that people are traveling from the same place, maybe traveling together, but there is a little bit more expansion in the Southeast region in 2019. And then total program impact map. So this map is from data that we get from vendor reimbursements. So this is SNAP and produce perks that vendors are reporting that they have gotten from customers and giving back to the market manager at the end of the day, and then reporting it by their zip code that the farm is from. And so you can see that this map is a lot more expansive than the customer map, which is really exciting and also a really good resource to have when we are going to places like the State House and, you know, talking with people and saying this program impacts a lot of areas. When we just have the customer map, it's not as expansive, but having this map shows that the impact of the program is almost completely statewide. And now moving on to retail sites. So I am going to go over participating sites and program operation, 2019 numbers, and some of the evaluation studies that we've been doing. So mentioning kind of the sustainability of the program. So while this program has been operating in farmers markets across Ohio since 2010, 2011, there was a decision in 2017 that to really bridge the gap of healthy food access, we need to expand into grocery stores because a lot of people shop at grocery stores, not always at farmers markets. So, and also a lot of our farmers markets in Ohio are not year round, or at least, you know, they don't have, if they are open, they may only have a limited selection of produce because we do live in Ohio. So expansion into retail stores happened in 2018. And I'll get a little bit more into how many stores we're operating in now on my next slide. But how does the program work at grocery stores? So it's definitely different than farmers markets or direct-to-consumer sites. And within retail sites, there are two separate ways that the program operates. So the first is at regional chain grocery stores. The way that it works at these stores is a customer will go and buy $5 or more worth of produce. And when they go to check out, if they're paying with their SNAP card and they spend over $5, they will get this coupon that you see on the left printed out. And it'll either say $5 off or $10 off coupon. And so if a customer spends between $5 and $9.99, they will get a $5 coupon. And if they spend $10 or more, they'll get a $10 coupon. This is free for them to bring back and use on the next visit. And then we have independent stores. So these are some of the smaller operators or those stores that maybe don't have a point of sale system that can handle printing out a coupon like this. So the option that they've taken is a write-in voucher. So you can see the visual here. It looks really similar to the Use Snap We Match marketing, and it says it right there. And so there's two options for this. This one is a write-in voucher, so it would be the exact amount. So if a customer spent $6.50, it could say, on your next shopping trip, redeem for $6.50. There's also a version that is a $5 set coupon, and then the cashier would just give that to the customer. And then if they spent over $10, they would give them 2 coupons. And some of the independent sites are seasonal because they are kind of in more rural areas, and they're also dependent on some of the seasonality of produce in Ohio. So looking at retail sites by the numbers. So you'll see here 2018 and 2019, so seeing the growth. And really 2018 was our first year of having more than just a pilot program. So this programming is really new, and it's also why we're doing a lot of our evaluation studies on it to get a better understanding. So you'll see the number of sites, both have expanded from 2018 to 2019. SNAP transactions, a lot of growth in both independent and regional chains. SNAP sales. So SNAP sales here, you'll see the little asterisk. I just want to make this clear as for data recording. So for the regional chains, all of the SNAP sales that are being reported here is when a customer actually comes back and brings a Produce Perks coupon, now when it's being distributed. And then at the independent sites, this SNAP number reflected is when a customer either uses a coupon or is given a coupon when they use their SNAP card. Incentives distributed. So you'll see that the amount of incentives distributed at regional chains is a lot, and that's because there's a lot of customers using SNAP and spending over $5. And then at independent sites, it's a little more of a personal experience. These are often stores that are smaller, or the process to get the coupon involves going to, talk to someone beyond the cashier. And so it's a little more intimate. And then redemption rates shown here that with the regional chains is around 24% in 2019. And in the independent sites is about 44%. Retail case studies. So this is one of our evaluation studies that we are doing at Case Western in collaboration with Produce Perks Midwest. And for these retail case studies, our research question is, what are the core elements of a successful healthy food incentive program implementation in diverse retail sites, different geographic contexts, and unique business models? So basically what this is saying is, how is Produce Perks operating? What makes it successful? What does not in different grocery stores? So we have locally owned and operated, and those that only offer local fresh produce, a co-op, kind of general regional retail chain, and some other unique kind of business models, and different geographic contexts. So is it in a more urban area? Is it in a more rural area? And kind of how does all that change? How does the customer base change? How do people interact? So getting a better understanding of how the program is actually operating in different stores. For the retail case studies, we have 3 data collection steps. So the first is SNAP focus groups and interviews. Originally in 2019, we did complete 3 case studies, and all of our SNAP customers were only brought together in a focus group, but due to COVID, we are changing this so that we can do interviews over the phone and still get the same feedback about the stores from customers. So we ask customers in these interviews and the focus groups about their shopping habits, coupon use, program use, and any recommendations they have for the marketing of fresh fruits and vegetable sales and the Produce Perks program. Next, we have employee stakeholder interviews. So this is when we get to speak with either managers or owners, IT specialists, and cashiers at the participating stores. And we ask them about program implementation, operations, transactions, and actual customer use of the program. And maybe, getting some feedback about what questions people are asking, what challenges there are with any communications. And then last, in the data collection step is we audit all of the stores for availability of produce, quality of that produce, if any of it is locally sourced, and then getting an idea of program marketing. So are there signs up in the store? What do they look like? Where are they? And so with all of this information together, we're able to kind of understand the customer side and see if it relates to what's actually in the store and get feedback from everything. And we work with Produce Perks Midwest to come up with some recommendations and coming up with a toolkit on best practices of implementing SNAP incentive programming in retail sites. And then our second evaluation study is called the cross-sectional survey. So this study looks at areas across Ohio that have both a retail site and a year-round farmers market that operate the programming. And we talk to customers that live within a 5-mile buffer of those sites. Our research questions for this evaluation study are, what factors predict use of different healthy food incentive programs among SNAP recipients? This question is really asking, so for customers that are receiving SNAP, so they're able to use the program, where are they using it? Are they using it at a retail site? Are they using it at a farmer's market? Or are they using it at both? Or maybe not at all? So getting a better understanding of what factors may predict the use of one use type over the other, or both. And then second research question is, what is the difference between use of different healthy food incentive program models on fruit and vegetable consumption among SNAP recipients? So in the group of users, people that are actually using the program, how does their diet differ? What are they buying that's different from another group? And then in 2020, because we have the coronavirus and we understand that this is a huge variable that is impacting all of our eating habits, food shopping habits, our new research question for this year is, since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic in March 2020, how have the following changed? So food shopping, eating and cooking, use of the Produce Perks program, and finances, employment. And this is just an overview of the survey data that was collected. In year one, our study areas were in Euclid and in Akron. We had 253 participant surveys collected. And then in 2020, so next month, we will actually, instead of going to 2 new areas, we will be returning to our group of participants that completed the survey in 2019, and we will be asking them a new survey that's going to work at understanding how COVID has impacted all of these factors. Well, I'm going to pass it over to Amanda. Thank you so much.
Thanks. So I think Lauren did a super great job explaining some of the state level data and the trends. So, you know, we won't be too repetitive, but we'll just give you kind of a snapshot of like the portion of the data that she mentioned that's relevant to the Cleveland area. So this is just a quick chart to kind of compare and contrast SNAP sales, transactions, the amount of produce perks distributed and redeemed for 2018 and 2019. So we did see kind of a slight decline in Cuyahoga County, but if you remember, Lauren's chart had showed there was a slight decrease in the amount of benefits issued across the state. So it's not completely unexpected for us to have seen a slight decline, but the positives for 2019 were that the amount of produce perks redeemed increased, and that's partially due to the increase in the match, but also people were using tokens that they had from a previous year. So Lauren mentioned that people will hold on to tokens for a certain amount of time, and so we actually had a 104% redemption rate in 2019, which again means that people were cashing in tokens that they had from a previous year. So while we saw a decline in SNAP sales in the Cleveland area, I should mention that the actual total sales at farmers markets in the Cleveland area from incentives increased in 2019. So we did see a decrease in SNAP sales, but when we factor in incentives from other programs like produce prescription and WIC Perks, there was actually a $14,000 increase in sales. So just to kind of give you some context. So while these numbers are, you know, there's a slight decline, there's still some positives, and you can't see the full picture in this chart. If you want to go to the next slide, Lauren. So Lauren, you know, showed a bunch of maps for the state. Here's kind of a zoomed in version for Cuyahoga County. Lauren mentioned that we are able to map kind of where customers come from based on the zip code they report. And so this just gives you kind of a snapshot of the county and sort of where our customers are originating from, right? So regardless of what market they shop at, just using the zip codes they report. And the top 5 zip codes are 44107, 44102, 44120, 44109, and 44111. I can say in the last 2 or 3 years, 44102 has been, you know, a very significant zip code. More and more customers are reporting that as their home zip code when utilizing the Produce Perks program. Next slide, Lauren. So this is a map of economic impact. So Lauren had showed you a couple maps for the state for Produce Perks and SNAP. And this map actually shows a little bit more data. So this is sale data for the programs run within Cuyahoga County. So Produce Perks, WIC Perks, Produce Prescription, and also data from Summit County through Countryside Conservancy, which shows, again, Produce Perks SNAP, their Carrot Cash program that Lauren mentioned, and they actually have access to their WIC FMNP sale data. So this is kind of a comprehensive map for Northeast Ohio for the sales from all nutrition incentive programs that were currently operating in 2019. So the total sales is $180,000, and you can kind of, again, see the economic impact and, you know, where these dollars are going back into what communities. I think it's, you know, Lauren mentioned these are important for interacting with legislators, and we're, you know, constantly talking about access and the number of families that we're serving, but the economic development story for nutrition incentive programs and the support for small to mid-sized farms is really, really strong. And so I like to just kind of reiterate that whenever we talk about the program. Next slide. Oh, I should mention on that last one, when we look at that sale data, it's pretty significant. There was one small urban farmer in Cleveland whose sales were increased by more than $10,000. So really talking about, you know, making farming more viable for certain individuals. Okay, next slide. So I wanted to give a brief kind of overview on a pilot program that happened last year. you know, over time working on Produce Perks, you know, we've heard that people can no longer access the program because they lost their SNAP benefits. Sorry. They could no longer access SNAP, or they were not SNAP eligible to begin with. So there's a pretty significant portion of food insecure families in the Cleveland area who aren't able to access the traditional Produce Perks program. So we wanted to look at what it would be like to offer incentives beyond SNAP. So we looked at offering additional benefits to families receiving WIC. So to be eligible for SNAP, you have to fall within 130% of the poverty line. To be eligible for WIC, you only have to fall within 180. So there is a difference there. So we partnered with the Cuyahoga County WIC program at Metro Health to launch what we call WIC Perks. So we essentially provided bonus coupons to families attending certain WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program distribution events. When they arrived for those distribution events, they would receive bonus coupons valued at $20. There were also cooking demonstrations, taste testings, nutrition education was provided, and culinary tools were provided as well. And most importantly, when we were there at the market, we were able to do on-site promotion for both SNAP acceptance at markets and the free match provided by Produce Perks. Next slide. So just to kind of reiterate what the model is, there's sort of two existing programs, and the pilot program brings both of those together. So again, as Lauren has described, Produce Perks is offered to SNAP recipients shopping at farmers markets. They can receive up to $20 in match a day. We also have the existing WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program, where WIC recipients can visit farmers markets on specific dates to get coupons, $20 booklets per client, right? So families can receive more than one booklet in Cuyahoga County. And then WIC Perks, again, is this bonus provided specifically to WIC recipients coming on select farmers market nutrition program distribution dates. So we provided them with a $20 bonus. And then the goal was to connect families who may be receiving SNAP to Produce Perks and provide the additional coupons to those who are unable to access the traditional Produce Perks program. Next slide. So there wasn't a ton of marketing that was done for this program. The marketing was done solely by the WIC office, and they did a phenomenal job. This is an insert that they provide to clients. You can see that there were 8 dates highlighted in green with a small box that described that if they attended those dates, they had the opportunity to receive an extra $20 in coupons and culinary tools. In addition to this insert that they used, it was just the WIC clinic staff communicating this program to their clients and encouraging them to use it. So there was no real external promotion of any kind going on. Next slide. So this is a small card that somebody would have received at the market. If they went through the WIC FMNP line, they'd be given this card to help direct them to the Ohio State tent, where they would be able to participate in the cake demonstration or tasting and receive the extra coupon. What this allowed us to do is be very discreet. We didn't have to have any signage that called out we were there for WIC that day. And so if someone had this card who participated in the cooking demonstration, Courtney, my colleague, would direct them around the tent where I would give them their bonus items. So if somebody who had come up to the tent to engage in the cooking demonstration didn't have a card, we would know that they weren't a WIC recipient. So it was a pretty good strategy. Next slide. So the overall kind of numbers, we ended up serving 683 families. We only planned to serve 500, so the pilot exceeded our expectations. So we distributed about $13,500 in coupons. There was a redemption rate of about 50%, which we actually think is pretty good for a pilot, for a first-time new incentive program. So we were very pleased with that. Next slide. We did some surveys, some follow-up surveys with some of the families who participated in WIC Perks. And of those responses, only 42% of the families were receiving SNAP benefits at the time. And only 48% of the families who were receiving SNAP said they had heard about Produce Perks prior to that market event that day. But overall, which was positive, 92% of families who were receiving SNAP plan to return to the market and use Produce Perks in the future. Next slide. Part of this project too came out of Dr. Darcy Friedman's recent publication that offering a second nutrition incentive program can increase SNAP sales at farmers markets. So we wanted to kind of test that as well. And so here is an example of one of the markets who participated in WIC Perks, and these are their SNAP sales for the month of August. You can see that the date that WIC Perks was offered is highlighted in green, and it's pretty significant increase in SNAP sales during that time. And when we look at the sale data from last year, the market dates with the highest SNAP sales generally occurred on WIC Perks dates or other promotion dates, such as the Buckeye Health events. Next slide. This is just a quick table that sort of compares the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program distribution between 2018 and 2019. And what you can see is that distribution increases only occurred at farmers markets who participated in WIC Perks, and declines were seen elsewhere. So what this says to us is that possibly the additional benefit or the opportunity to receive the additional benefit did help families determine which market they may want to attend. So we saw a lot of families who would have traditionally gone to the Cam's Corners distribution come over to Lakewood to get the bonus coupon. Next slide. All right, so some of the stuff that's going on with COVID at farmers markets. So just to give kind of a quick overview for people who aren't farmers market nerds like us at ONIN, farmers markets were designated as essential under Governor DeWine's stay-at-home order. And the Ohio Farmers Market Network had created some guidelines to help markets practice the best health and safety standards during COVID-19. Those guidelines presented by the Ohio Farmers Market Network have been acknowledged by the Ohio Department of Agriculture as being sound. So farmers markets across the state are using those best practices to make sure that everybody stays safe and that markets can continue to function. Farmers markets are also following the requirements that are in the Responsible Restart Ohio plan, which Ohio Farmers Market Network has also provided additional guidance on. So some of these practices include making sure to space vendors out, not allowing for any kind of cloth materials, no reusable bags, no tablecloth on tables. Sanitizers are present, and vendors have sanitizer to wipe down their table. Market staff, volunteers, and vendors are all wearing masks, designated hours for vulnerable populations. So the list kind of goes on. But just know that the farmers markets across the state have done a really fantastic job of implementing these changes. But farmers markets will look a little different this year. So not only with the spacing issues, but also, we can't offer cooking demonstrations or taste testings. There's no congregating, there's no music. So just know that they'll look a little bit different. And then most significantly, so Produce Perks in Midwest and the Ohio Nutrition Incentive Network kind of chose to offer an unlimited match for Produce Perks during COVID. So to provide support to both families and farmers, they kind of removed the cap. So that $20 cap was lifted, and families are able to access as many Produce Perks as they want between now and June 30th. And the impact of that has been very significant. Next slide. So here's the list of operating markets right now. There's a couple that we have lost due to COVID, so they will probably return in the future, but we're not able to operate during this time or chose not to operate at this time. So the list is a little bit smaller than usual, but we still have a large collection in the Cleveland area. Next slide. So just to show you kind of some of those impacts of the unlimited match, when we think about sales for all of the markets that were operating between March and May, you can see a difference. So between 2019 and 2020 for those months, there's a 114% increase in SNAP sales at markets during this time because of the unlimited match. And there is a 143% increase in the Produce Perks distributed during this time. So that's very significant and very exciting, especially, again, going back to thinking about supporting small to mid-sized farms during this time. Next slide. So it was really interesting to look at Cam's Corners Farmers Market. They just opened about 2 weeks ago. So when we look at their first market date for 2019 compared to their first market date in 2020, the change is explosive. So obviously the unlimited match really influenced the number of SNAP transactions on their first day and how much SNAP was actually spent. So this is probably one of the largest increases we've seen so far and is very exciting. Next slide. If we look at North Union Farmers Market at Crocker Park, they've also seen pretty significant increases in SNAP sales and Produce Perks distribution during this time. And Lauren has, not shared this data. She did on a different presentation, but some of those SNAP transactions during this time are extremely high. $100, $200, and we've even seen a couple $300 transactions. So individuals are really taking advantage of the unlimited match. And again, they're going to hold on to those tokens, as Lauren mentioned, and use them over the course of the year. Next slide. And the last example is Coit Road Farmers Market, and they've seen about a 300% increase. So if you think about sales at farmers markets during the months of March, April, and May, they're generally lower because there's not as many produce options available. So to see these increases at this time, given the availability of produce, again, really speaks volumes. Next slide. There's also pandemic EBT that's being offered right now, and this is through the Federal Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So additional benefits are going to be available to families. So families with children who are eligible for free or reduced lunch, K through 12 will receive additional food assistance. It's being referred to as pandemic EBT or PEBT. And these benefits will be issued for the months of March and April, and will be available on the card for 12 months. So there's two types of cards that could be used for this. If an eligible child is currently not a recipient of SNAP, they will get the PEBT card. And if the child is currently a recipient of SNAP, those benefits will be issued directly onto the existing Ohio Direction card. So for the amounts, each child is eligible for $5.70 a day for each day the school was closed due to COVID-19. So the total for March would be $302.10, and the total for April would be $239.40. So again, they're going to receive this on a card. Those funds will be available on the card for 12 months. There was a delay in the issuing of these benefits, but families will be able to use these benefits, whether it's on the Ohio Direction card or the PEBT card, at farmers markets, and they will be eligible to receive Produce Perks. Next slide. Oh, and then this is just an example of the branding. So as Lauren mentioned, the You Snap We Match campaign on the left, and then on the right is a marketing tool that Produce Perks Midwest developed to kind of specifically call out PEBT. So we will have an updated version of this flyer that also includes the PEBT card. But we just wanted to give you an example of what some of the statewide network is doing to reach out to families who might be receiving PEBT. All right, I think we have 8 minutes to spare. I know that was fast, but I wanted to keep us on time.
And Jennifer, this is our last slide.
Okay. Thank you both. I'm actually going to keep you on this slide for right now. We do have a few questions, but before getting to them, I want to say thank you to both you, Lauren and Amanda, for this amazing overview of the Produce Perks project and how the program comes to light throughout the state of Ohio, and really explaining to us why it is so important and how the program has evolved over the last few months. So one question that's coming from our chat is PEBT only for March and April? Amanda, you mentioned that it's for every, $5.70 is distributed to the cards for every day that school is closed. Does that include the summer months as well, or how does that work for summer feeding?
I'm not 100% sure. The materials I've seen from ODJFS have only listed March and April, so I'm not sure if I haven't seen an updated version, but I can only confirm March and April. But I'm happy to try to look into that. I was curious myself.
Okay, awesome. All right, another question is in regards to, we understand that you see how much is being spent, whether it is with the Produce Perks program or with the new WIC Perks pilot. Are there any plans to follow up with either of the participants to assess their dietary changes in health and developmental outcomes?
For WIC Perks, we did a pretty generic follow-up survey our first year because it was a pilot, and we hadn't really knew what we were going to ask, and so we learned a lot. So I think our future survey could include more information around that, but in terms of doing like a long-term study where we would follow individuals for a while, that probably would not be the case.
Okay. And Lauren, just to confirm, with the data collection process, that's where you all are kind of evaluating how SNAP and produce participants are actually consuming the fruit and vegetables that they are purchasing?
Yeah, so on the cross-sectional survey, the one that was in Euclid and in Akron, we do ask dietary, we ask like how many greens they're eating, beans, stuff like that. So that is on the official like nutrition survey, but because we aren't resurveying new people, we're resurveying the same people with COVID questions. We will be getting a little bit of that, asking people, and I'm trying to understand how it's changed since the year before when that was kind of their normal lifestyle.
So with those who are going to the farmers markets, I know that you mentioned that there are a couple that may stay open year round, particularly thinking about the winter months. What efforts have brought the most success in encouraging SNAP participants to still utilize the Produce Perks program, whether at those open farmers markets or at stores that may participate in the program? And can you also speak to which retailers participate in the program?
I can speak to the retailers. As for like marketing and promotion for winter farmers markets, I think this is definitely an area that we can grow in. We are kind of, the network is trying to rethink the marketing and rethink what avenues they want to use. So I think this is all part of the growth of the program. As for retailers that are operating, there are, in the Cleveland area, there's select Dave's supermarkets that operate the program. In the Worcester, Orville area, it is a local regional retail chain called Bueller's Fresh Foods. And then there's kind of different ones scattered throughout Ohio, one such as Market on the Green, which is in a ProMedica building in the Toledo area. Some sites at the Findlay Market, which is like a West Side Market in Cincinnati. In Lancaster, there's a store called Keller Market House, and some other just smaller places around Ohio. There's an IGA in Youngstown. A full list can be found on the Produce Perks website as well, if you go to locations.
Okay. All right. We have another question. I'm actually gonna let this be the last question of today. Is the grant income sufficient to maintain, the growing program costs and reimbursement?
So with the current grant that we are under, it is going to be wrapping up next year, and there is an application going to be going in for a new GusNIP grant. There are some changes that are happening as people, especially during COVID, are starting to understand the impact of this program and how valuable it is for people that receive SNAP. So I think that more support is going to be coming for the program from the federal level. I also, as I mentioned, that Produce Perks Midwest advocated and got Produce Perks within the TANF state budget. So, and the PRX program has been growing over the past 2 years. So I think that there is more and more avenues for different people to participate in the program. And so that is going to help with the overall sustainability of the program and the expansion.
Thank you, ladies, both so much. I'm going to actually pop over to my screen. Okay, everyone. So that actually concludes today's presentation about the Produce Perks program. Again, I want to thank both Lauren and Amanda for their overview of the program, and again, explaining to us how important it is to continue to make sure that our families who really have been hit the most, especially by COVID-19, are still able to receive the food and the nutrients that they need to be able to survive, and not just them, their entire families. So I'm always excited to go to farmers markets when they were a bit more lively and having the music and having the fun, previously at the old Brooklyn market, but it's still a great initiative, and I am very happy to have these two ladies so passionate about this work. So thank you both. Coming up next with our seminar series, we will hear from Dr. Eun-Kyun Lee, who is a postdoctoral scholar within the Swetland Center, and she will be giving us an overview of her doctoral work with understanding food systems from a life cycle perspective. I know there were a few bugs with registration and getting on and the password, so I do apologize about that. So I will make sure to try to work all of that out before our next seminar. But if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at my email through the Swetland Center, and I will be sure to get back to you and get help for anything. And again, we will have this recording up. We will have the contact information for both Lauren and Amanda available should you have any future questions. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you to our panelists, and I hope you all have a great Tuesday.